Hello, I'm Tim Selden. I'm president of the Montessori Foundation, and this is our weekly broadcast, Finding the Perfect Match. Clint Lausch may be joining us a little bit, but his daughter had an accident at school and I believe is seeing the dentist, so I'm here by myself. Today's topic is going to be about waiting lists, and I know that some of you are watching this live, some of you are going to be watching it later, and we are just delighted to have you here. Please, as I go along, do not hesitate to raise your hand, or in case I don't see it, just unmute yourself and jump in. But I do have a slideshow, and what I want to do is to cover a basic thesis of mine, which is that most waiting lists really don't work terribly well, um, and that I think there is a better way. So let me get started and let me share my screen. I'm sure there is a way to do this. I'm just trying to figure it out. Hello. You know, they keep changing these things, and here we go, share screen. Okay. This is definitely not what I'm used to. They keep changing it. Huh. Okay, share the screen. Let's see what happens. Scale to fit content, enter into full screen. Wow. This is working differently. Good old Zoom.
Don't worry, Tim. I'm in the exact same boat whenever I have to do this.
Yeah, I know, Amanda. What can I tell you? This will probably be of particular interest to you, Amanda, because in Montessori, quite often we get parents that show up and we may not have room, and yet we want a relationship with them. So hang on, share a screen. What is going on here? This is clearly the button for how to share the screen. All right. Amanda, have you figured it out?
No, because
How?
all I can see is the little green share screen arrow. It's got to be
Yeah,
somebody more technological in this group than me, though.
right. How about you, Michelle?
Not me. I have an IT guy I call all the time whenever something doesn't work right. And usually he just comes and stands here and says, "What's your problem?" And then it starts working.
Well, I love it. I have never seen it do this. I'm so used to a button on my screen that said, oh, here it is. I had to make something go away. And here we are, allow. And we have to find Canva. Here's Canva. Share a screen. Okay. Clearly, this video is going to need some editing. And there's that. And now let's get that out of the way and go to present mode. And here we are. So, what I want to cover today is the idea that I think most of us would do well to rethink our approach to waiting lists. And as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about the waiting room. I'm used to being able to turn off waiting room, and maybe I can do that so that anyone can join us. Mute all, play join. You know, I love it when they do this kind of stuff. They just change things and you can't figure out how to do it anymore. Okay, well, hopefully, if anyone tries to join the waiting room, I'll see them and I'll let them in. So, our goal is to talk about waiting lists, and the basic thesis of the day is that people get frustrated with waiting lists. Usually, all that happens is we say things like, "Hang on, I'm trying to get a screen out of the way. This is ridiculous. Can't even see what I'm doing." All right, here we, no, that didn't work. Just bounce right back over my screen. I'm going to just do that and okay. Clearly, Zoom doesn't understand that what they do sometimes really makes it hard to present. Okay. So basically, what I notice is a lot of schools, whether preschools or prep schools, have a waiting list. And the basic theory is, we put you on the waiting list. And I'm working with a school here in California at the moment that just puts everyone on a waiting list. And they just willy-nilly let people in who they've never even met, never toured to the campus. They just offer them admission. So anyone could go on the waiting list. There is no application. There is no they just don't know each other. And I think that's really not a good idea. I think what we're trying to do is create a relationship with people. We're going to meet more people than we probably have space, although there are years where we worry whether we'll be able to meet our enrollment numbers, which is one reason why the foundation is offering these workshops every week. Is we've learned a long time ago that without advertising and marketing, you can really not meet your enrollment goal. But there's a difference between someone who is coming to visit your school, who expresses that they're interested in coming to your school, versus someone who actually wants to be there and will stay with you. And I think our goal here is to have, again, relationships. So if you've got a situation where anyone can join a waiting list, it's basically like saying, maybe I'd like to date you, but maybe not, as opposed to a commitment. So basically, I'm suggesting that instead of just letting people sign up willy-nilly, saying, yes, I'd like to be on your waiting list, rather just take everyone through the admissions process. Not everyone, of course, is going to choose to apply. So that's the whole idea of the funnel. And that's the idea of tours and programs and meetings and interviews. Because, again, I don't think we necessarily want every single person who approaches us to fill out an application and then basically bog us down with 1,000 applications for 3 spaces. Instead, what we want to try to do is help people to figure out, are we the perfect match? Are we what you really want for your child, for your family in the long run? That's about relationship. And relationship directly leads to families that stay with you through graduation, that support your annual campaign, that give to your capital campaign. So I think there's a direct connection between what we're talking about and how your school is going to run down through the years. Come on, go to the next slide. So I think a lot of times what we do is we ask the wrong question, which is, do you want to be on our waiting list? And if you think about it differently and you restructure your waiting list from something that anyone could say, yeah, I want to be on your waiting list, and then they're there, and now you've got to go down a waiting list. And keep in mind, I recognize some of us run charter Montessori schools or publicly funded programs where a waiting list is a legal procedure that must be followed. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the idea of whether you're running a K through 12 school or a Montessori school that goes through high school or a preschool or an elementary school. A waiting list can be something beyond just saying, yeah, I'd like to be on your waiting list. So you've got 3 clear options when someone actually does apply. The first is you can say, yes, welcome. We'd like to offer you admission, and they decide whether to accept it. The second is you can gracefully decline to admit them. And that is basically saying, we love meeting your family. We don't think we're the right fit in terms of what you're looking for. We really think you'd be happier at XYZ, or we get so many great candidates, we can't accept all of them, or we'd love to take you, but we're a school that starts with Montessori kids at 3 and your kid is now 8, and I don't think it's fair to your child to have them join us at this point in their life. There are lots of options of how this can be done. The last option is to say to someone like a university would, we would love to have your child join us. Your family was great, but we have gotten more applicants than we have room for at this time. would you be interested in joining our waiting list? And what that means is that one, if an opening occurs during the year, we'll reach out to you and see if you'd like to have it. And if you do, then you can join us mid-year. If you don't, then you're still in line for next year. The following year, when presumably there will be more openings occur, before you start accepting brand new candidates, the first thing you do is you've got your current kids that you're offering readmission to. You're also reaching out to the people on this serious waiting list saying, are you still interested? Because we're about to know whether we're going to have openings for this coming year. We'd like to double check on how little Johnny is doing. We'd love to sit together again or have him visit again. Just make sure that this is what you really want. And you offer them admission for the following school year where there is now going to be openings. So again, you've offered your existing families the ability to re-enroll. You've gone to your serious waiting list and offered them spaces. And then finally, you go to the people who are new applicants and you begin working with them. Now, all of these are probably happening more or less at the same time. The main difference is you're probably reaching out in the late fall, early winter to the people on the serious waiting list. You're, of course, speaking to your current families probably on January 1st or 2nd or 3rd, saying, okay, admission re-enrollment is now open. You've got until a certain date to commit for next year. And you're also reaching out to those waiting list families before you open everything up to the new applicants who are also probably going through the admissions process with you. You're just not making admissions decisions on them yet until you know how many openings you've got. So every school eventually has to decline a student. It could be that they have a learning style that you think is not a good fit. It could be that you've got one parent that you think would be great. The other parent really wants their child to be in a school that's different from yours, a faith-based school or whatever. And you're not going to offer everyone admission. So you want to be able to decline admission with respect and to acknowledge that finding the right fit for your family and your child is something we're doing together. It's not about us rejecting your precious child. It's us respecting our school and our needs and your family and your goals and your needs. And we're just not a good fit for each other, and that's okay. But again, we can do this with love and respect. So we want to have a new perspective on the issue of the waiting list. One is a serious waiting list is built on a genuine relationship. This family wants into your school. You want them. You just don't have room for them this year. So basically, they go into a holding pattern until you've got an opening for them. And the only obstacle that's involved in this approach to a waiting list is space. This is a family that wants in, you just don't have space now, but you're going to have space sooner or later. You're not asking them to make a firm commitment. In other words, they may have enrolled their child in another school, and when you finally have an opening, they may feel like my child is happy. I'm not going to move him. He's already made friends. And that's one of the risks that you take. But on the other hand, you've got a more serious waiting list than the typical someone just says, oh, add me to the waiting list. So you might call this approach a small relationship-based or relational waiting list. So what it does is it gives family a sense of a deeper connection because they know you want them. They know that there's sooner or later there's going to be an opening, and you can start bringing them into the community even though you don't currently have room. Now they may choose to stay back from your community. They may not want their child to get their hopes up. They may want to give the new school that they did choose an opportunity to, develop a relationship with the child. But you're giving them an invitation. to consider themselves future part of your school's community right from the time that you offer them this space. Doing it in this way, by age or by grade, ensures clarity and transparency. They know what order they are in the waiting list. They know that they will be offered a space if space becomes available. And they know that, that they can be part of the community even though there's not currently space. The other thing you want to do is you don't put people on this kind of waiting list and approach them a year later and say, hey, we're getting ready for fall enrollment. Would you like a spot? You keep communicating with them all through the time that you put them on the waiting list. Ideally, every week, you add them to your normal email list. You communicate with them in special ways. You invite them to events. The bottom line is you nurture this prospective family right from the beginning. So we have a timeline. You might call this deferred admissions. Now, of course, that can mean something different in universities. That's typically where a university offers someone admission, and the student says, I'd like to ask for deferred admission because I want to take a gap year. But I'd like to still come to you a year from now. That's not what this is. This is us saying we'd love to have you, and we don't have space yet. But realistically, we will probably have space next year. So if you implement this new waiting list model, if it feels like a good match for your school, you would do that the first year. You can expect you're going to have to communicate carefully with these families that are on the waiting list. And the predictable result is you're going to have an increased relationship with the families that are admitted. You're going to have more enrollment. You're not going to have a sort of random waiting list out there that you approach, and most of them have already gone elsewhere. Whoops. Sorry, I went too far. Now, there is a moral responsibility. One of them is that while they're not committed to you, they have not signed a contract, you might ask them to put money down to be on the waiting list. I wouldn't. To me, it's all about relationships and people choosing each other. But I would definitely be very, very ethical in the way I do these waiting lists. Um, we really want these families to feel they can trust you, that they're valued, that you're communicating in a very transparent manner with them about what's happening. Again, I don't want them to be sitting there chewing their nails saying, what position am I in the waiting list? And, is anyone being thrown out or leaving town or whatever? Ideally, what they know is you care about them. You're assuming we're going to be working together in the future. We care about you. So again, we want to nurture the relationships. We have a regular process of check-ins from the administration or the admissions office of the school. We clearly communicate with them, not only routine things that we're sending out to everyone, we're doing special things for families that are on the waiting list so they know we're talking directly to them, not just randomly to everybody on an email list. And this is again intended to not only keep them waiting for that opening with bated breath, but we want them to really feel that you see them, you hear them, you care about them, you want them in the school, you just don't have space yet. Now, there are some limitations. Some schools, and certainly some of you on this call may be running a school, Montessori or otherwise, it stops at kindergarten. From my experience, families that have very young children, or you might have a high school and, they might apply to you for admission at ninth grade. And if they don't get in at ninth grade, they may be gone. On the other hand, this model can work. And just acknowledging there are some schools where you wouldn't want to do this. So I think there are limitations, but I think it works for most of us. So there are contexts where it's likely to work, and that certainly is a school that is K through 6 or preschool through 6 or K-8 or school, goes through high school, that's almost a sure thing. If a family has chosen you and they like you and you like them, you know darn well sooner or later you're likely to have an opening. If you don't, then you are really a fortunate school. If you can go for 12 years and never have an opening. So again, it's all about trust and connection between the family and the school. And when we prioritize relationships, we're creating a situation where the family feels seen, they feel valued, they feel supported. This is what leads to the kind of relationship that all of us really want with the families in our schools. Because remember, I don't care what kind of school you're running. These people could go to public school for free. Their taxes have already paid for their tuition. So if they're coming to you, it is because there's something you're doing that in their minds is special. And what we're trying to do is add to the wonderful things your teachers do, the wonderful facilities you have, the wonderful curriculum and programs you offer. We're trying to add an incredibly supportive, close-knit community of families and educators. That's what makes our schools special. So that's about it. This is how to get in touch with us at the Montessori Foundation. Let me stop sharing and see if anyone has any thoughts or things you want to share about your school. Amanda, Michelle, anything that you want to share?
Well, we're one of those schools that kindergarten is our last year.
Mhm.
So, a lot of people that we have on the wait list, sometimes if we waited for another year, would not get in.
Yep.
And I do sometimes find it hard to get to know these families before we try totally enrolling them because they're like, oh, I need my kid to start school next week. So,
Yep. Yep.
and we're in one of those daycare deserts. So, people here are, I had a family come on a tour of the school because we make them do that before they ever try and enroll with us, whose baby isn't even born yet.
Yeah.
I think they just found out they were pregnant, maybe, and they were looking for a spot for preschool.
Well, here's something that I was talking with a school I work with in California, and they're a school of a couple hundred. They stop at kindergarten, and they'll typically enroll 70 new children out of 200 or so children a year. And and they have the waiting list. So I was talking with the head of school yesterday about this, and what we agreed would be a worthwhile procedure to put into place would be to allow people to go on the waiting list. That part's fine. But because most of these people are going to evaporate, and because they're not all going to come in to school, what's usually going to happen is they went on the waiting list last fall. They're now being offered admission one after the other. So what I suggested, why don't we start doing multiple time a week group Zoom meetings with some kind of title like is our school right for you? Or, Montessori 10 or 101 or whatever. Uh, and that kind of thing, while they don't have to come to that, it may help you to help them to figure out is this, what you want is families to ask themselves, am I just looking to solve a problem, or do I actually love my kid enough that I want to find the right fit for my child?
Like it.
So that's another suggestion. Amanda, what do you do at your school?
Well, we typically have, and since we haven't had a huge wait list situation since before COVID, that kind of changed a lot of things. But when we do, which is actually what I'm looking at right now for fall, it's for our younger programs. We
Mhm.
start, so we go from toddler to adolescent, and
Yeah.
we start at 15 months. And, that's kind of where I struggle, where, we are a school, we consider ourselves a school, but people who are looking for their 15-month-old are looking for care, and they're not likely to wait around if there's not a space. So that's where I struggle, is cultivating relationships with those people and keeping them interested, even if we can't meet their immediate need.
Well, one thing that from my experience works is to say to a family, look, your child right now is so young and
Hmm.
you have such a need for care so that you can work. I get it.
Hmm.
And I wish that we had room for all of you. We're not going to have room for all of you. However, this is one of the most important decisions you are ever going to make. And whether your child stays with us for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, through kindergarten, through eighth grade, through 12th grade, every year of your child's life is precious. Now, you are your child's first teacher and you're your child's best teacher. No question about that. But if you could do it all, you would. The reality is you're looking for a partner in raising your child, and we're looking for families who feel like we're the perfect match. So here's my thought. You're going to go off, and some of you see, you have a problem to solve. You've got to have some place to care for your child right away, and I get it. However, if you go to that school and you fall in love with it because we didn't have a space and you found a solution, great. But I just want you to know that we're here and we'll be delighted to talk to you when we have an opening, whether it's mid-year or at the beginning of next year. And this is something we really encourage you to take the time, get to know who we are, because frankly, there is nothing else in this town like us. We are really, really special. We're not right for everyone. I love saying we're the most expensive school in town and we're worth it. Um, but I mean, whatever school you are, you're not a commodity. Michelle, you talked about a daycare desert. I'm so fascinated with childcare centers these days. Montessori educators traditionally look down their nose and say, oh, they're just a daycare. My mom founded a school in 1932 for working families called the Barry School, which is one of the largest, most famous Montessori schools in the world. But it was always a family-friendly school. And that idea that we're not a commodity, that whether we go through high school doesn't make us more valuable or not, but every child is precious and every family is precious. And this is a really big decision you're making. We'd love to get to know you. And we're here. I mean, the foundation slogan comes from our school. We're here to help. And that's a way of approaching families, I think. We're here to help. If we're the right fit, great. If there's something that's a better fit, you want faith-based school, you want a more traditional school, you want a play-based school, regular, it's all good. This is your child, and you got to do what you think is the right thing for your child. Anyway, here's another question for you. Talk to me about what you do to make the phone ring. Are you doing paid advertising?
Yeah, we kind of moved away from print advertising and are focusing mostly on social media and, some local blogs. There's one, for example, in our area called Madison Family that shares advertisements and articles and such for local schools. So things like that. But moved
Are you
away
doing
from.
paid advertising, Amanda?
Well, we do yes, for social media, I
Yeah,
pay
you're
to do
talking
the
about
boosted ads.
Facebook and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Instagram,
yeah.
things like that. Yeah. And by the way, I think blog posts are great. Have you seen the lady in Oregon who's doing a tiny cabin Montessori?
No, I haven't.
You need to look that up. And
Oh, that
Michelle, I don't know if your school is a Montessori school or not, but if you're not, take a look at what this lady's doing because it's
okay.
brilliant. You don't need to be a Montessorian to appreciate her creativity. She
We
is truly entertaining.
we are a Montessori school, so that's what I try to get through to a lot of parents who are just looking for a daycare spot. We're different than these other daycares you've seen, because we're not a daycare, we're a school.
Yeah, yeah. Which
Um,
school are you, Michelle?
we're Good Shepherd Montessori.
Okay. Now there's a
Yeah.
number of them. Where are you located?
We are off of Ellsworth Road, so in Vancouver, Washington.
You're in Vancouver, Washington, you say?
Yes.
That's great. Well,
So,
again, I think I don't care how small you are, how large you are. Um, I learned a long time ago that without advertising, terrible things happen. Nothing.
yeah. So we have a ad that we put out every year in the local family magazine. And this magazine, you find it like every doctor's office you go to, almost
Mhm.
every place, you'll see them sitting there. And so all of our Montessori schools that are in this Vancouver area like chip in for this page ad, and we like advertise our open houses and things like that together. But that's only once a year. Um,
Yeah, well, the rule of marketing is it working? And if it's working, it's like fishing or anything else. If it's working, there's not a problem. And
yeah,
if it's not working, again, I'm working with a school in California that has two locations. One location, it's endlessly productive. I mean, there's just people out the door. The other location is crickets. And Clint, who does this webcast with me, um, he and I have been working with this school for the last several months, trying to figure out how do you make the phone ring. So you try all kinds of things from guerrilla marketing to paid marketing, different messaging, till you find something that works.
yeah. And I mean, we've been open for almost 30 years now, and previously it was all just word of mouth, but it's not that easy anymore.
No, no. Well, as you probably know, I'm a big fan of my friend Clint, and Clint
Yeah.
does not work for me. He's got his own company, and I've used him myself at our lab school, and I highly recommend Ames. And I know lots of other people in our field of Montessori. There's Nido Marketing, there's, you know, Montessori Agency, there's Go Montessori. Um, Clint, from my experience, is the cheapest and the best. But I don't care how you get the problem solved as long as it's solved.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everything you do. I have a parent observing who I need to go pull out of the
You
classroom.
do indeed. Well,
Thank
this was a
you.
great session. Thanks. We'll talk to you later. Amanda, anything else from you, my friend?
No, I'm good, but thank you. This has been very helpful.
Glad to. I'll see you next week. And by the way, on Thursday for our Independent School Leaders Forum, we're having a session on what's happening with the change of immigration and how that's affecting existing Montessori schools and non-Montessori schools and what we can do about it.
Oh, wonderful. That's Thursday. How do I access that?
Uh, if you send me an email, I'll make sure Clint adds you to the email list. But it's every Thursday at 1, and it's a series like this. The
Okay.
difference is this one focuses on marketing and admissions, and the other one is every aspect of running a school.
Oh, wonderful. Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, Amanda. All the
Yeah.
best.
Thank you. You too.
We'll see everyone next week. Thanks for coming.